Well, hello everyone. This is Mayor Dave Brummel, City of Warrenville. Here today again for our State of the City address. I'm glad you could join me for this. I wish you could join me in person. Something about this year that has made it difficult for us to do that, and I regret it as much as you do. This is always a whole lot more interesting and fun when I'm able to interact with an audience. We've made do with what we have. We're still going to go through the process. I still think it's important that you hear an executive summary of what's been happening in town over the last year and some idea of what we anticipate in the coming year to give you a framework for what's happening in the community, about things perhaps that you have noticed but you'd like to learn a little bit more about. You certainly have noticed my theme for this address is change in progress. Lots of changes going on in Warrenville. A lot of them are very, very noticeable, some not so noticeable, but we're hoping that they're all quality changes that are going to contribute to the sustainability of our town and going to use the land on which they're being built for the highest and best use, and will serve the best interest long-term of the community. So change is the big thing. When we look at things and making decisions for the city, we use our strategic plan. I think it's important that you understand that we may get opportunities that are random, but we don't make plans that are random. The plans that we make all fit in with a strategic plan that was adopted in 2015. That's our go-to book for determining what our priorities are and what we'd like to see in the community. There are 6 elements, 6 goals for that strategic plan that you can see on the screen in front of you. When we talk today, as I've done in the past couple years, I will go through those 6 goals and try to enumerate for you what we accomplished in 2020 and what we hope to accomplish in 2021 in light of each of those goals. So beginning with economic development, that's the biggest one. Again, as you look around, drive around the city, ride your bike around, you see a lot of activity, a lot of construction, a lot of things happening. That is a good thing. Change, of course, is something that we all sometimes look sideways at and sometimes we find difficult to accept, but it's necessary, it's inevitable. What we try to do is manage that change again so that the changes that we do bring and accept and embrace are ones that will make the community a better place on some level. Some of the things going on that were completed again in 2020, the Thorns Gas Station up on 59 by Duke Parkway. Thornton's is probably the Cadillac or Mercedes or whatever the latest hot top-of-the-line vehicle is of gas stations. They do a wonderful job, very classy operation. They do a lot of business. They've already given us a lot of tax revenue since they've opened. We're glad to have them in Warrenville in a site that makes perfect sense right along 59 where you have 30 to 40,000 cars and trucks per day. Across the street from Thornton's is Culver's, a new restaurant that we have, a very popular restaurant that was already set up to do a lot of takeout so that they came in and hit the ground with their feet running and already are doing a terrific business. So we're glad to have them in Warrenville. One of the smaller businesses that made some improvements in the past year, Compass Day, a daycare school, made a 2,000 square foot addition onto their property. They're very happy to be in Warrenville, doing very well. Another one of those small businesses that makes our community a great place to be in. Some of the things that are also under construction or in process, Stafford Place, you may remember that as a contaminated industrial site. Well, now it's going to be 27 new single-family homes. 25 are already built, 2 are in progress. That has taken less than 3 years. We've taken a piece of property that was of minimal value, in fact, probably negative value at some point due to the contamination and the difficulty of cleaning that up, which we undertook and we managed to get done to a residential standard. So we've taken a property and turned it into an asset that's worth over $12 million. Somebody new in town, Little Friends Center for Autism. I was able to take a tour of that facility recently and meet with the folks that are engaged in their mission. Super people doing a wonderful job bringing kids and young adults from all over the area into Warrenville to receive help that they need to receive, to stay in our hotels, to go to our restaurants, and to make our community a better place. So we're delighted to have Little Friends in Warrenville. Their intention is this is their new permanent home. They have room for growth. So again, we're excited to have them here. The Senior Living Center used to be an abandoned restaurant. You probably remember that. The sign was up for years after it closed. That property, along with 3 other pieces contiguous to it, was purchased by Alden Foundation, and they're building the Senior Living Center, which is a place for older adults of limited means. Another investment in our community, over $20 million. If you're an older person, you don't want a house anymore, you'd like to live in an apartment, perhaps you live alone, this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful place to stay. Right along the river, a beautiful view, close to all of the amenities that Warrenville has to offer, close to the Park District, the police station, Tom's Market, Walgreens, the library, all the things that you might want to visit. So a nice development in progress as we speak, should be done by the end of this year. Everton is another development up on Route 59, east of Route 59 by Duke Parkway. It consists of townhomes, apartments, and a clubhouse. There's also a 3.5-acre commercial site, half of which is the new Culver's, and of course that leaves room for another restaurant. Notice again, and this is important, that the taxable value of that property went up from a little over $500,000 to $74 million when this project is complete, and that annual property tax will increase from about $15,000 to $1.9 million. This is important. You'll see on every slide that I do on these developments, you're going to see where that property was when the development began and where it's going to be when it's done in terms of the value to the community and the amount of tax that will be paid to the community, provide for the sustainability of the town by enhancing the tax base. The property is in TIF, our number 4 TIF. We've had 3 successful ones. TIF number 4 is continuing that success. Notice that the TIF, when it ends, is going to increase the city annual tax revenue from this development to about $500,000 and about a $1.25 million additional tax revenue for School District 200. Do understand that all of these residential developments were looked at very carefully in terms of their impact on the taxing districts. There was a lot of concern that we would not overload the schools. So we very carefully evaluated the number of new people, the number of new kids that would be in each of these developments. For a lot of them, we were able to look at statistics from similar developments that the developers had done in other communities, so we had some very reliable information there. We also coordinated with the school district to use their figures and other outside experts that could help us determine what the impact would be. Of course, most of these units are meant for either retirees or young professionals. They're not designed for families. So the final conclusion that we had that we've been operating under is that when they're all done, they will add approximately 100 to 110 kids to the school population. This should not be a problem for the school district. For the past few years, the school district population has been declining somewhat, so this should fit right in terms of keeping the school district healthy. Riverview West is in Cantera. This is a 364-unit apartment building. High-end, again, to attract the type of people that we want in Warrenville that have discretionary income to spend, who will enjoy being here, enjoy our open space, and contribute to the community in a positive way. The first phase is already under construction and partially occupied. The second phase is 60 townhomes that are going to be built along the river in a beautiful site. I'm sure they will sell as fast as they are being constructed. And notice again the taxable value going from about $500,000 to $80 million, quite a jump in terms of the value that's brought to this community and the size of the investment that these folks are making. The property tax generation, again, from $43,000 to $2.3 million, a sizable jump. Vanguard is also in Cantera, another very, very nice development. That's being developed on what was a parking lot that was underutilized for many, many years. When the theater was first developed at 30 theaters, you may remember that if you were here for that, the expectation was that there would be a lot more parking necessary for those 30 theaters. Sadly for the people who ran that, the 30 theater concept was not one that had a lot of staying power, and a lot of that parking space sat fallow for many, many years and was not used. Well, it's going to be used now by a beautiful development. and that is 242 residential units. Again, look at the numbers, a taxable value of $30 million and about a $250,000 in city tax revenue alone, as well as bring people to populate our businesses and go to our restaurants. So it's another beautiful development. Again, out on Route 59, Lexington Trace is on the other side of Route 59 from Everton. There'll be 21 buildings there with 106 units of townhomes. Already permits have been issued for 70 of those units. The property has been designed beautifully. I would invite you to drive through there to see what a quality development it is. Lexington Homes has an excellent reputation for a good reason. They have a beautiful product and they're doing a great job in Warrenville. Notice again the numbers. The jump between before that property was developed until it's finished is phenomenal. Again, a great addition to the city of Warrenville. I would also add that a lot of these new higher density developments are on the periphery of town or in Cantera. We're very jealous of our older neighborhoods and their charm. We're very careful not to intrude on those neighborhoods. We really appreciate the fact that we're able to add to our population, add to our tax base without disrupting the older neighborhoods, because that's a part of the charm, again, of the community that we wish to perpetuate. Some other things that we did in 2020 as our restaurants struggled, we tried to find ways that we could help them. We don't have an incentive program. Being a small community, there's not a lot of extra money for that sort of thing. But we did two things that helped a lot, or at least a little bit, made it a little bit easier for them to survive until we get through this. One was a temporary auxiliary outdoor seating program to have them allow those restaurants to have seating on public property and be able to stay open. We also waived a lot of permit fees and other fees for the businesses to help them a little bit as best we could too. So it was an effort that we went as far as we could. We would have liked to have gone a lot farther. We're happy to see that most of the folks that we were able to support are still with us, and we're looking forward to better times for them for having weathered the pandemic. We did acquire the former Citgo property. I want to talk a little bit more about that in the next year's presentation. But this was a big thing. We worked for almost 5 years in negotiations to get that property. It is a highly contaminated former gas station site, an eyesore, and certainly a debit to the community that we want to change into something positive, and we're on our way to do that. During the past year, a lot of activity in the community in terms of investment, individual investment, and business investment. We issued 634 building permits, and that was about $93 million worth of work. Again, that's a good thing to note for the community, because that means that people like it here, they're staying here, they're investing in the properties here. That's good for all of us. In terms of fiscal conservatism, we've done a number of things precipitated, like in other communities, by the COVID problem and the downturn in the economy. All of that meant reduced revenue for us. About 1/3 of our revenue is dependent on market-driven revenues, restaurants and that sort of thing, entertainment venues. That's been down substantially. So what we've done to try to alleviate that squeeze is that we have a partial pay freeze for our staff. We've reduced the road program temporarily by deferring some things that we would like to do, but we realize that we can put them off for some time until times are better. We haven't bought some new equipment by taking a little more time to take care of the equipment that we have and stretch it for another year or two, whatever we need to do there. And we have some vacant positions that we haven't filled. Staff has done a terrific job in wearing many hats and filling in gaps where we have to fill in those gaps because someone is not there that we would like to have there. So at some point, staff will probably grow a little bit in the future, but for the present, we've been very careful not to fill some open positions and certainly not to hire any new folks. And of course, the biggest aspect of fiscal conservatism is to not spend money that you don't have. We maintain a balanced budget using, sometimes we have to use a little bit of reserve as a bridge to better times, but we have those reserved to use. We have cut back on our expenditures, And we have no bonded debt, which I'd like to remind you of, which means that every penny that comes in terms of revenue can be used for providing the services and the staff that we have to have in order to do the things we need to do. So no debt has proved to be something that has helped us survive this pandemic and economic downturn. A couple of positive things about the downturn. One is that we did get the CARES Act funding in excess of $600,000 from the federal government. Staff did a yeoman's job in making sure that we got every penny that the city of Warrenville was entitled to. That helped us enormously. Also, there's an infrastructure bill being discussed in Washington as I speak right now. That could be very helpful to the city of Warrenville, again, to help us make up for lost revenue and close the gap between COVID-19 inception and the banishment of that pandemic. So there's some outside funding there that we're hopeful is going to be worked out and sent from Washington to help us, again, for impacts that we've had to take because of COVID-19. Rest assured that when it comes to record keeping, we do it very carefully. We awarded, again, 27 years in a row, the award that tells you that we do things exactly the way they're supposed to be done by law, with no exceptions. We get a clean bill of health every single year and an award for doing it well. We are in the process of working on the ERP, the Enterprise Resource Planning initiative. This has been going on for several years. Initially, we anticipated that it was going to last about a year and a half. It turned into, I guess, like a home remodeling project where you have someone take a look at it to tell you what you need to do. You get a price, and it looks like everything's going well until you open up the walls and the floors and you find all sorts of unpleasant surprises. That's exactly what happened to us in terms of our operation. We were, for a long, long time, a mom and pop operation, and we used whatever systems we could get. A lot of those systems are no longer being supported. Some of them are past their useful life. None of them can communicate with each other. It's a pretty mishmash of a system. We get the job done, but certainly not as efficiently as we could. So we undertook the Enterprise Resource Planning Initiative in order to get an umbrella to put all of these operations under one umbrella. So everybody could, all the staff, all the departments could communicate with each other. They could do their jobs efficiently, and it would be in one system that would also allow input from the citizens. So our goal is to be efficient and to be open, to be transparent, and to be able to communicate easily. That has proved to be elusive, but we're going to get there. We're making progress. Eventually, we will have that system in place and we will be far better for it. It's just taken a little longer than we anticipated. We have done our best to keep our taxes reasonable. Since 2004, when we were made a home rule community, we have more control over what taxes we can have, but we promised at that point in terms of the property tax that we would not exceed the property tax cap. We have not done that since 2004. We have no intentions of doing it in the future. So we've kept that promise. I would remind you that the majority of your tax bill goes to other taxing bodies. Only about 9% comes to the city of Warrenville. We try to do a good job with that small portion of your tax bill, but remember, when you get it, it isn't the city of Warrenville. Take 9% of that total, and that's what we get, and that's what we have to work with. And of course, all the development that we're seeing is going to be a positive thing for the community. All of those developments, those tens of millions of dollars of buildings will pay property tax. That will help. All the people that live there and do business in those places will pay taxes in a number of different venues when they do business in Warrenville. All of that helps the vitality of the community and also helps keep our taxes reasonable. Open space and environment, very, very important to us. A couple of initiatives that we are hoping to get going and get completed at some point is the Mack Road bridge replacement and the multi-use trail. If you've traveled Mack Road on your bike or if you run there, you know it's not really a very safe place. We'd love to see an extension of the trail from McKee Marsh up to Route 59 to allow that safe passage. The Mack Road Bridge is still safe to use, but it's ending its useful life. It needs to be replaced. So we're in the process of getting the engineering done for that so that we can anticipate that replacement coming up. One other thing that I believe, received an award for last year was our solar energy program, which was an initiative to make sure that if you're interested in solar energy, you can get the information you need from the city easily. Permits are easily accessible, and we encourage people in that way by making it easy to do it. We've had 14 residential installations and 1 commercial installation in the past year. Illinois Prairie Path Trailhead project is an exciting idea. You may have noticed that the Prairie Path was relocated outside of City Hall, between City Hall and Butterfield Road. That's in anticipation of other improvements that we'd like to have done out there. A stopping place for folks as they bike and ride through Warrenville. Again, probably 30,000 people on a good day, on a summer day, go through Warrenville on that path. We'd like to provide them with a place to stop, look around, and maybe stop into one of our businesses, have a restroom, visit the Founders Memorial display that's going to be included in the amenities that we're going to have there, and we hope to have that done by the fall of 2021. City infrastructure, which again is not an exciting thing, but it has to be done. These are the behind-the-scenes things that we kind of take for granted. Again, the road program is going to be limited a little bit by lack of resources, but not in such a way that it'll be a detriment to the roads out there. We'll still be taking care of them. Storm sewer lining is kind of a dull subject, but also very important. The water tower, you won't think about this, but it has to be painted on the inside. That's an important thing. Some storm sewer upgrades on the east side, important. Flooding used to be a huge issue when I grew up on the east side. We have mitigated that largely over a period of time, and we're going to do some more mitigation to prevent flooding up there. And then the I&I program, the infiltration and inflow reduction program, is very, very important. All of our wastewater and effluent goes to Naperville to be treated. The city of Warrenville has to pay for every gallon that goes through that system. So it's really important that our pipes are secure, and water, stormwater, and groundwater, those things are not able to infiltrate the pipes and go through the system, and we have to pay for that water to be treated when we really shouldn't. So this is a very, very important program throughout the city. It's ongoing. It's not just this year and last year, but it will be going on for several years in the future. But again, it's a way to keep costs down for us, and to keep the capacity available for us for future development. Public safety, all sorts of good things about our department. I think it's important to note that we have been awarded the designation of one of the safest communities in the state of Illinois several times in the past couple of years. In fact, last year, one agency did rate us as the safest community in the state of Illinois. That's a pretty good thing, considering there are over 2,000 municipalities in the state. Our police department is among the very best. If you know any officers, you know of which I speak. They are professional, they are friendly, they are helpful, and they are well trained. So I'm very, very proud of Warrenville Police Department. Chief Toronto has done a phenomenal job of making that a place where people can come and learn how to do police work right. We have other initiatives besides safety. The prescription drug recycling is important. If you have a medicine cabinet full of old prescription bottles, you don't know what to do with that. Certainly you don't want to put it in the garbage. You don't want to pour them down the drain. Put them in a little bag, bring them to the police department, and they will dispose of them through a company that does that safely and effectively and carefully, so that it doesn't go into the environment and poison the environment. Some other initiatives there that we do through the police department through the year, some fundraising events, all important things to connect the police department and the officers with the community. The safest communities are the ones that have a strong relationship between police officers and the citizens. So I encourage you to participate in any of these activities that you're able to do. Say hi to an officer when you see them. Make sure you wave. Make sure you make them feel like they're appreciated. That's very important, and will continue to be a safe community going forward. Some of the other things that you may have noticed, the solar-powered traffic speed displays I find to be very helpful when I'm driving. We have an emergency management agency coordinator that was opening for a while. I'd like to give a shout out to the EMA people. They are volunteers. They come out when we have some sort of an emergency, whether it's a huge traffic accident or an event. or a storm come through the town, EMA is always there helping the police department do their job, keeping our costs down, and volunteering in a positive way that, again, makes Warrenville a better place. So a big thank you to the EMA folks. Okay, this past year, we did something that has been something I think we've wanted to do for a long time, which is take a closer look at inclusion, diversity, equity, and awareness. We formed a commission in order to do that. It's important, I think, to always take a close look at the character of the community and how we might improve it. I'm not aware of any serious problems we've had with inclusion, diversity, equity, but certainly there are ways that we can improve what we're doing to make sure that people that live here feel like it's their home, feel safe, feel respected, feel included in what's going on, and that people that come here to live experience the same thing. So this new commission was formed in order to find ways to educate the public, make recommendations for events perhaps, and make other recommendations to the City Council on how we might improve the character of our community in terms of how we treat each other. I was very excited to see that I had far more volunteers to serve on this commission than I had positions. Very qualified people with good intentions and good portfolios to help us make some improvements in how we treat each other. So going forward, I'm excited to see how this might affect the community in a positive way, and I encourage you to attend the commission meetings. All of this, of course, is on our website, and again, all of our commission meetings are open to the public. You're welcome to attend, ask questions, to make recommendations, whatever, or just share a perspective. So I'm looking forward to this commission doing great things for us. Some pictures from town, again, just to show you some of the new stuff. The old bank building looks a little bit different. You can tell on the corner there's a new door. That would be the Evelyn Eve Wine Shop, which is doing well, and we're hoping to see them improve over the summer with some new outdoor seating. Vanguard development on the right over there, going up in process in Cantera. Everton up on 59 on the left at the bottom, and Thorns Gas Station that I talked about earlier. Onward to 2021. What can we expect? What's going to continue? What's going to be new? We'll go through again the 6 goals that we talked about for 2020. We're hopeful that at some point in 2021, the Speedway gas station revamping and redevelopment will actually commence. They've purchased some additional property to expand the station and modernize it. I noticed that they've got a fence up. They've pulled back from actually moving ahead with their plans at this point. I believe they've done that a number of times, so it's been kind of disappointing for us to get all excited about the improvements and then not have them happen. I think the last time it was because new ownership of their operation came upon the scene and pulled back all their initiatives to take a closer look at them. But we're hopeful that that's going to happen. It will be a modern station like Thornton's. That's very ecological minded, a lot of improvements, and a much nicer addition to the City of Warrenville over the current station. One thing that we're in discussions with a developer is the redevelopment of the former BP Training Center in Cantera also. The potential there is for 57 townhome units, as well as using the existing building for a condo-type office arrangement where small businesses can rent space. This certainly seems to be a very popular thing at this point, and it seems like a very appropriate thing for that particular place in Cantera. Again, it will bring more folks to come to our restaurants and go to our Target and the other amenities that we have to offer. Both people that will be in business and people that will want to live there. So an exciting little development. The architecture is very interesting. They will have, the plan has terraces on the rooftop, has a little bit of an urban feel, but it's a good place for that type of a feel and to attract that type of young professional from the city. So we're excited about the prospects of that possibly coming. Two Brothers Tap House just reopened. I was happy to see that they did a lot of remodeling. It's an exciting place to be. It always has been. It will continue to be that. I know that they're really excited to be open again. You may be aware they've also purchased 20 acres of property on the northwest corner of 59 and 56 with the intention of moving their entire operation onto that property. They only need about half of it for all of their things that they have to do. The rest of it would be outlots for other businesses. So we've eagerly anticipated some progress on that project. The economy, sadly, has put a hold on that, as well as a lot of other things. That having been said, Two Brothers is committed to Warrenville. They love being in Warrenville. They want to move on this property. They're waiting for the right moment. So at the present time, it's on hold, but we're hopeful that it's going to happen before too long. We will continue in 2001 to be very careful how we spend the money that we get in. That is by necessity and also by design and also by preference. We're very careful. We're very fiscally conservative. We will continue that. Our pencils will remain very sharp. The hope is obviously that things are going to improve over the next year, but it's very uncertain. We don't know how quick the rebound is going to be, how complete the rebound is going to be, and what the implications are going forward long term for us. So we're going to be very, very careful to make sure that we don't overextend ourselves. One thing that our staff has been very, very good at in past years is finding grants for the programs and the events and the projects that we want to accomplish as a community. Outside funding has been a large part of virtually every project I think that we've done in the last few years. We've been very successful, sometimes finding as much as 80% of funding for a project from the federal or the state government. Those initiatives of finding those grants will continue in earnest, and I'm sure we will be successful. The ERP system, which I talked about earlier, how frustrating it has been not to be able to complete that in a timely manner because of complications. Hopefully that will happen this year. It will be completed, and it will streamline our operation, make things a lot easier, again, to communicate both in the city and between the city and citizens, give staff a shot in the arm in terms of their efficiency, and save money in terms of having to take care of older systems that are failing more and more these days. Open space and environment, again, we talked about two of these projects being planned last year. We're hoping to see them come to fruition in the coming year. The Trailhead, which is a pretty exciting prospect on a number of levels. One, it will get people to stop in Warrenville and rest a little bit and look around and see what a great town we have. And two, it will hopefully take the old bank building, put it in the spotlight with the new businesses that we have there, encourage a couple more new businesses. And with that infusion of people stopping there, we can see that bank building revitalized and turned into a town center where we can go also, where we can invite other folks. So it's a pretty exciting prospect to get that trailhead done. The Mack Road Bridge and the bike path will be closer to having that. We're in negotiations for right-of-ways there to make that happen. And also looking for outside funding sources to keep the costs down for the city. And that's moving along quite well. A third project that's also under consideration are sidewalks along 59, on both sides of 59 from Batavia Road down to Continental. If you're familiar with that area, there really is no safe way for pedestrians to transverse that area and get from one business to another or get from their home to a business. So we're hopeful that at some point we're going to be able to find funding to have that multi-use path extended up there. Something near and dear to my heart, the Citgo property that I mentioned that we purchased last year. We completed that purchase, and we've worked on plans to mitigate the contamination. At this point, you may have noticed the fence around the property. The construction equipment has removed the underground storage tanks that were leaking over the years and caused a large part of that contamination. There are other sources of contamination that have to be investigated, identified, and then mitigated that we're working on. The hope, of course, is to clean up that property to a residential standard, which means we can use it for whatever we want, some sort of new business/residential combination, something that will revitalize that area and take down that ugly canopy and building and replace it with some new buildings that actually have some meaning to the town and welcome folks to the city of Warrenville. So we're pretty excited at the prospect of what we might come up with in conjunction with private development. It was certainly, to my mind, This would be a property that would never have been redeveloped without the city's intervention, without the TIF district assistance. That contamination, the extent of the contamination had never been really identified. It's hard for me to imagine a private development firm that would buy property without knowing how much it was going to cost to clean it up, then have to tear down buildings and then build new buildings. The cost was excessive. It just wasn't going to happen. So this is one of those things that the community had to make an investment in. Yes, it did cost money. The alternative was to leave that property the way it is, and when you come down the hill, is that really what you'd like to see, advertising Warrenville, or do you think it was wise to make the investment to clean up the property and hopefully get something nice to introduce people to our community? At least that's our goal, that was our intention. We're in the process of making that happen, and I'm excited to see that progress and excited to see what kind of outside funding we can identify and secure to make it happen. City infrastructure, not a lot of different things there, and again, things that aren't really exciting, but they have to be done. The road program, again, will be reduced somewhat as we carefully look at what we can defer and what we have to do, making those decisions determined, again, by how much revenue we're able to recoup after the downturn. Some storm sewer pipe lining, some storm sewer upgrades, the Williams Road Bridge. I know it seems like we just did that, but that's in need of maintenance, and we always try to maintain things so that we don't accumulate huge repair bills because we neglect things. And then the I&I program that I talked about earlier will continue. Some engineering projects. Again, the Mack Road Bridge, the big one here I think that I'd like to highlight is the fact that we're going to have to build another water tower. The expansion of the community requires that. We've identified a place for it to be, and we're working on the design and the acquisition of that property to make it happen. So that's a big thing that's coming up in the next year or two. The I&I program, other engineering for some resurfacing in Summer Lakes and the east side of town, also in the planning stages. Public safety, of course, we are going to continue to have every effort to recruit top-notch recruits for our police department. Some of the things that we're going to try to do again is the roll calls as things lighten up because of COVID. The National Night Out would be nice to be able to do that again. We had to defer that because of COVID this past year. Very popular event, a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll be able to do it again. We're going to do a police recruitment video again in the effort to make sure that we get the best recruits that are out there. We do have an officer now assigned to the Merit Squad, which is really important. This is basically a set of the best officers in DuPage County that are assigned to any particular crime scene or a problem where they're needed. So we are assured that if something really, really bad happens, we'll have the best people. We already have a great department, but we'll also have the assistance of the best people from the other departments in the county. And diversity will continue again with the IDEC Commission, with our efforts to find ways to make sure that people who live here and people who visit here, people who do business here, feel accepted, respected, and included in our community. Very important to make sure that that is our identifying characteristic. We're a friendly town and we're a fair town. We intend to stay that way. And finally, to wrap things up, just a couple of things. First of all, where we're at right now is very encouraging in terms of COVID. It looks like vaccines are becoming more and more available. More people are getting vaccinated. We're going to get a handle on this thing, and we're going to be able to gradually return to a more open society that we were used to and we truly enjoyed. We are very careful in Warrenville here at the city to make sure that we don't do anything that jeopardizes anyone's safety, so we will be conservative in how we embrace these new openings and changes, but we're grateful that they're coming. We're excited to see the completion of a lot of the projects that are in progress right now, and the infusion of new folks that's going to bring to the town and the vitality that's going to bring. The potential for new businesses in the old bank building and other places because we have new citizens, that's also exciting. So all in all, I think our future looks pretty bright. I'm very proud of what the staff has been able to accomplish the last year, and our public works folks, our police department, everyone who works for the city has been the best as far as I'm concerned. And the citizens have been very understanding of the things that we've had to do. So let's look forward to a good year coming up. Let's all stay safe, let's stay healthy, and hopefully we can do this again next year with a crowd in the room.